Hello and welcome back to another Magic the Gathering EDH deck tech idea. Today we are taking a look at Menenon, the right hand. But before we jump into today's video, I want to make a shout out for Mythatom. Check out their high quality Magic the Gathering and other fantasy products via the link in the notes below and use my discount code LATSEL for 10% off your order. It is a 5 mana 3/4 with flying and you may look at the top card of your library anytime. Furthermore, you may cast artifact spells from the top of your library. And in addition to that, artifacts you control have tap them at 1 blue mana, spend this mana only to cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand. This mono blue commander wants to really quickly cast a bunch of artifact spells from the top of your library to simply accelerate so fast that your opponents can't keep up. There are a bunch of artifact discount spells that we can use, but Memnon is also a 5 mana commander, which is why we need to ramp in the early game. In addition to that, we will play synergistic mana rocks that can also be of use later on. For example, Crystal Skull, Izu Spyglass, a 4 mana legendary artifact, and you may look at the top card of your library anytime. Furthermore, you may play historic lands and cast historic spells from the top of your library. You can also tap this artifact to add 1 blue mana. When it comes to monocolored decks, it often really makes sense to look at Extra Planar Lens, a 3 mana artifact with imprint, so when it enters the battlefield you may exile target land you control. And then, whenever a land with the same name as the exiled card is tapped for mana, its controller adds 1 mana of any type that land produced. Make sure to always then play snow-covered basic lands, simply because your opponents probably won't be running snow-covered lands, so they don't get the benefit of the extra planar lands. Due to the fact that this deck has a combo finish, we also play Cloud Key, a 3 mana artifact, and as it enters the battlefield you choose artifacts, creature, enchantment, instant or sorcery. And then spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. We will most likely always choose artifacts simply to synergize with our combo and also the rest of our deck. We play Scampering Surveyor, a 4 mana artifact creature, and it's a 3/2, and when it enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic land card or a cave card, put it onto the battlefield tapped and then shuffle. Sapphire Medallion is a 2 mana artifact and blue spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and as soon as Menenon is on the battlefield it can also tap for a blue mana. Of course we play Solemn Simulacrum, a 4 mana 2/2, and when it enters the battlefield you search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped and then shuffle, and when it dies you draw a card. While we are playing mana rocks and also discount artifacts, we will play synergistic creatures for later on. For example Liberator, Urzel's Battlethopter, a 3 mana 1/2 with flash and flying, and you may cast colorless spells and artifact spells as though they had flash. And then, whenever you cast a spell, if the amount of mana spent to cast that spell is greater than Liberator Urza's Battlethopter's power, put a +1/+1 counter on the Liberator. This will give you a lot of flexibility due to all of your spells having flash. We play Sai, Master Thopterist, a 3 mana 1/4, and whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. For 2 mana and sacrificing 2 artifacts, you draw a card. When you are playing a combo deck, your opponents will most likely try to overrun you, and because of that, making a few tokens as chump blockers is really helpful. We play Artificer's Assistant, a 1 mana 1/1 with flying, and whenever you cast a historic spell you get to scry 1. This helps as additional top deck manipulation to definitely keep your cast chain going. We play Vedalken Archmage, a 4 mana 0/2, and whenever you cast an artifact spell you draw a card for additional card advantage. To generate even more mana rocks we play Forensic Gadgeteer, a 3 mana 2/3, and whenever you cast an artifact spell you investigate. And in addition to that, activated abilities of artifacts you control cost 1 less to cast. This effect can't reduce the mana in that cost to less than 1 mana. And for some additional graveyard recursion, we play Scrap Trawler, a 3 mana 3/2, and when it or another artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return to your hand target artifact card in your graveyard with lesser mana value. And here are a few synergistic artifacts that will help you and can also be used as mana rocks. We play Conjurer's Bauble, a 1 mana artifact, and you can tap it and sacrifice it to put up to 1 target card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library and draw a card. To have some graveyard hate, we play Tormod's Crypt, a 0 mana artifact, and you can tap it and sacrifice it to exile target player's graveyard. We play Uthros, Research Craft, a 3 mana artifact spacecraft, and if you have 3 station counters on it, you get the ability, so whenever you cast an artifact spell, you draw a card and put a charge counter on it. If it has 12 and plus counters, it is a flying 0/8, and this spacecraft gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. We also play Cryogene Relic, a 2 mana artifact, and when this artifact enters or leaves the battlefield, you get to draw a card. card. Furthermore, it keeps the creature locked tight, because for 2 mana and sacrificing this artifact, you put a stun counter on up to 1 target tapped creature. We also play Ether Spellbomb, a 1 mana artifact, and for 1 blue mana, you sacrifice it and return target creature to its owner's hand. You can also pay 1 mana and sacrifice it to draw a card. Another great card is the Reality Chip, a 2 mana 0/4, and you may look at the top card of your library anytime. Furthermore, as long as the Reality Chip is attached to a creature, you may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library, and you can reconfigure this card for 3 mana. Now let's talk about a few bomb creatures that we play in this deck. We play Metalwork Colossus, an 11 mana 10/10, and this spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total mana value of non-creature artifacts you control. Furthermore, you can also sacrifice 2 artifacts to return Metalwork Colossus from your graveyard to your hand. To have an unblockable beatdown creature, we play Kappa Cannoneer, a 6 mana 4/4 with Improvise and Ward 4, and whenever this creature or another artifact you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature and it can't be blocked this turn. A great stacks piece that also accelerates your game plan is Jin-Gitaxia's Progress Tyrant, a 7 mana 5/5, and whenever you cast an artifact, instant or sorcery spell, copy that spell, you may choose new targets for the copy. This ability triggers only once each turn. And then, coming to the stacks part, is whenever an opponent casts an artifact, instant or sorcery spell, counter that spell, this ability triggers only once each turn. Another great beatdown creature is Truxos, Scourge of Krog, a 4 mana 7/7 with Trample, and it enters the battlefield tapped and doesn't untap during your untap step. But whenever you cast an historic spell, you untap it. And now we are coming to your win con. As I've said earlier, we are playing a combo deck. We will start our turn off with Isochron Scepter, a 2 mana artifact with Imprint, so when it enters the battlefield, you may exile target instant card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your hand. And then, for 2 mana and tapping it, you may copy the exiled card, and if you do, you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. We will imprint Dramatic Reversal, a 2 mana instant, and you untap all non-land permanents you control. As soon as we have reached a critical mass of mana rocks, we can make infinite mana with this combo, because we will also untap the Isochron Scepter, and then all we need is something that we can pump that infinite mana into. We will use Walking Ballista, an X/X/0/0, and it enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. For 4 mana, we can put a +1/+1 counter on it, but we can also remove a +1/+1 counter from it to deal 1 damage to any target. We will pump all of our infinite mana into a huge Walking Ballista and then remove a bunch of counters to ping our opponents out. We also have an alternative win con, for example, Mystic Forge, a 4 mana artifact, and you may look at the top card of your library anytime. Furthermore, you may cast artifact spells and colorless spells from the top of your library. For tapping it and paying 1 life, you exile the top card of your library. As there are a bunch of discount creatures, we will also play Sensei's Divining Top, a 1 mana artifact, and for 1 mana, you look at the top 3 cards of your library and put them back in any order. But the relevant thing about the combo is that you tap it to draw a card and then put Sensei on top of your library. Due to all of those discount creatures and also our commander and other synergistic pieces, we can cast Senseis for 0 mana from the top of our library. With that, we can repeat an infinite loop of how we cast Sensei's Divining Top and draw our whole deck. But we are interested in the cast trigger for Aetherflux Reservoir, a 4 mana artifact, and whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. It also has an activated ability, because by paying 50 life, you can deal 50 damage to target creature or player, which will also be enough to nuke your opponents out of the game. Alright guys, these were a few cards that I would play in Menenon. Let me know which cards you would add to the deck, which legendary creature I shall feature next. Make sure to check out my full deck list in the notes below, and then I would say see you in the next one. Goodbye guys.